Okay, we've got logos, a kind of marriage. So it's going to be a semicolon, a comma with a colon. We've got a few different options here. So, or semicolon without a comma. Nigerian author Buki Emeka celebrated literary oeuvres, including The Joys of Motherhood, a novel about changing the roles of women in 1950s Lagos, A Kind of Marriage, a television play about the struggles of newlywed couple in Nigeria, semicolon and. Okay, so again, we've got this semicolon and, which usually sets up a list, okay? Kind of the only way we usually see the semicolon. Sets up a list where we have our semicolon as super comma, okay? And I think that's what's going on here, so we better understand it in that context. So let's set up the parallel structure. The joys, it includes the following. We're going to get the list. Number 1, The Joys of Motherhood, title, comma, a novel about the changing roles of women in the 1950s, comma. Then we'll get the second item in the list, which is A Kind of Marriage, right? The title. So actually that shouldn't be a comma because we're going to use the super comma, the semicolon as super comma. So I probably want a semicolon, right? Before my second item in the list. A Kind of Marriage. Actually, I'm going to want semicolon, A Kind of Marriage with a comma, because here I have a comma, and then I describe what it is, the extra information. Here I'm going to have the title, and then comma with the extra information. It's a television play about the powerful struggles of a newlywed couple in Nigeria. And then our third item in the list, I'm going to have semicolon and a new title and a new description after a comma. So that sets up our parallel structure, which is how we often answer these questions, figure out exactly what's going on. So it's not this semicolon, and it's not a comma, colon, or just comma, comma. It's going to be B. It's going to be this semicolon, the title, and the comma separating the extra information that modifies the title. Essentially a positive, which in this case is separated by a comma because it's title and then the appositive. And that's all within the list of 3 super commas, which is semicolons used to replace the commas, of 3 or more elements. B is the correct answer. So I have equations, comma, though, colon, equations, period, though, comma, though, comma, though. So my guess is on these types of things, the commas and the no punctuation won't work. And we're probably going to have though with maybe a colon or possibly a new sentence starting though. Let's take a look. In 1943, in the midst of World War II, mathematics professor Grace Hopper was recruited by the U.S. military to help the effort by solving complex equations. Hopper's subsequent career would involve more than just equations, though. As a pioneering computer programmer, Hopper would help usher in. Okay, so more than just. We've seen this before. We get just and then though. The though has to be on the same side of the colon or the semicolon than the just. So I think that's what's going on here. And then we'd have a colon. There's really no other option, right? We can't have a comma because as a pioneering computer programmer, Hopper would help us usher in the digital age. So that's an independent clause after, right? And this is, of course, an independent clause before. So I wouldn't just have commas. That would be a comma splice. I wouldn't separate the period and then say, though, as a pioneering computer programmer, Hopper would usher in the digital age. Because the though has to go with the just. He's more than just a math guy, an equations guy. So, and there's definitely no punctuation. That's not going to work between 2 independent clauses. It's going to be A. Hopper's subsequent career would involve more than just equations, comma, though. Colon, we're going to explain what else it will involve. As a pioneering computer programmer, Hopper would help usher in the digital age. That explains what more he did than just equations as a mathematician. A is the correct answer. Okay, quick vertical scan. Tombs built, or tombs end built, with a period, a possible separate sentence. We see this structure over and over. It's repeating, and it's a new kind of structure that repeats on the boundaries or grammar, independent, dependent clause structure type problems. Hegra is an archaeological site in present-day Saudi Arabia and was the second largest city of the Nabatean Kingdom, 4th century BC to 1st century CE. Here's the sentence. Archaeologist Layla Nami recently visited or traveled to Hegra to study its ancient tombs. Comma, built into the rocky outcrops of a vast desert, these burial chambers seem to blend seamlessly with nature. Okay, this is going to be a standard new structure, I think. So, archaeologists recently traveled to Hegra to study its ancient tombs. That's an independent clause. Okay. At the end here, after the comma, these burial chambers seem to blend seamlessly with nature. That's an independent clause. So we're going to probably have independent clause, some kind of period, dependent clause, comma with an independent clause. The part here, so tombs, period, built into the rocky outcrops of a vast desert. That's a past participle, dependent clause up front, separated by a comma. These burial chambers seem to blend. Yes, that's exactly what's going on. A is the correct answer. Okay. So again, get used to this new structure. It will help you identify the boundaries. Otherwise, you're going to be all over the place trying to figure out your boundaries and what exactly separates what. It is not the parenthetical here, comma, built, because then I say these burial chambers. That would be a comma splice. Tombs and built does not help the situation. Neither does tombs built. Okay, essays praising, essays end praising, and again, kind of an essays with a period praising. So let's read this one, see what's going on. Same typical structure as we see in many cases on the new boundaries questions. American writer Edwidge Danticat, who emigrated from Haiti in 1981, has won acclaim for her powerful short stories, novels, and essays, praising her lyrical yet unflinching depictions of her native country's turbulent history. Writer Robert Antoni has completed the Danticat Prize winning. Okay, so what do we have here? Independent clause up front. American writer, we got a dependent clause in between, but we can kind of pull that out. So American writer Danticat has won acclaim for her powerful short stories, novels, and essays. That's the independent clause. Okay. From this comma here, writer Robert Antonio has compared Danticat to Nobel Prize winning novelist such and such, Toni Morrison. That's another independent clause. This is going to be independent clause, period. Dependent clause up front, separated by a comma with an independent clause. This is our new structure. So, and essays, period. Then say, praising her lyrical yet unflinching depictions of her native country's turbulent history, comma, that's your dependent clause, comma, independent clause. Writer Antoni has compared Danticat to a Nobel Prize winning novelist, Toni Morrison. This is what's going on. This is the right answer. It's independent clause, period, dependent clause, comma, independent clause. Again, these will probably set up with the independent clause here at the end and the independent clause first. Comma splices. They do not work. D is the correct answer. Okay. Geologist. Okay, this looks easier. Geologist, comma, semicolon, colon, or nothing. Usually we see a couple different phrases in there in the answers. The field of geological oceanography owes much to American geologist Marie Tharp. This isn't a positive. The geologist is Marie Tharp. They're one and the same people. And we're saying what the profession is first, and then the name. So the second part, the positive, is identifying information. It's therefore restrictive. It is not going to be separated by commas. So I want no punctuation whatsoever. Okay? And that's going to be it. It's as simple as that, the appositive. So profession, the name, usually there's no comma, name, then profession, usually separated by comma, the second part. That's a quick rule of thumb. So owes much to American geologist Marie Tharp, no punctuation. And then we describe more about her. A pioneering oceanographer, cartographer whose details did this, blah, 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 blah. Up front is the independent clause. B is correct.